Hey y'all, we are back. It is Monday. It is 8:30. It is Conversations with Teresa. I am so excited that you guys are able to tune in. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited that it's Monday. I'm just excited. How about that? I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about our journey to financial paradise. How about that? All right. We got lots to say. There's so much to talk about when it comes to that. But we have an amazing guest on our show tonight. They're all amazing, actually. But this one right here, we got it going on here. So we're going to bring him on and we're going to start talking about conversations with Teresa. How about that? So I want to introduce you guys for the first time on Conversations with Teresa. Boom. It's Matt Paradise.
Hey, I'm grateful to be here. Yeah.
Let me save my voice. Like I got it. I got it like that. Matt, we're here.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. I know you didn't catch the first piece of it, but to be here with you means a ton. I mean, I get a chance to follow you and see the different things that you're doing. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But for you to say yes to be on the show, I am thrilled, honored, and overjoyed. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to give you so much time to be able to talk. But before that, I got to do my thing. I got to brag on you a little bit. You good with that?
I'm good with it.
I'm gonna do it anyway.
I like kind of setting the bar low, so go easy, low expectations, and try to over deliver.
Nah, you all that in a bag of Doritos, so you good, or Oreos, or whatever it is that you be
something tasty,
chomping on. So anyway, I'm gonna read, but then you're gonna lay it down for us. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. So Matt Paradise. Did you guys catch the whole paradise journey, paradise, that whole thing? I was trying to do the play on words thing. Matt Paradise, renowned financial educator who is passionate about transforming lives. I love that. He has empowered over 100,000 people to improve their credit scores, pay off their debt, and save enough money to achieve their financial goals. You have me at hello. Come on now. As a highly sought after speaker, you have taught people in all walks of life, from Harvard University lecture halls to homeless shelters throughout New England. You have unique programs that have been featured at Massachusetts State House, the Fidelity Investments, Department of Corrections, and so many nonprofits we can't even talk about, corporations large and small. And I've had personally the opportunity to catch a couple of those. So I appreciate that. So on your personal path to financial well-being, and this is probably the best part about it, because you've kind of walked this walk. And by the grace of God, he has overcome drug addiction, homelessness, cancer, a liver transplant. You are a proud father, loving husband, and a care provider for your in-laws. Your poodle named Odyssey. I love that. It keeps you active. Music soothes your soul. And you gave up a professional drumming career years ago. I didn't know that. Look at you. All right. But you enjoy playing in his church. You enjoy playing at your church, with your church band and with friends. Matt and his family live in the greater Boston area. Welcome to Conversations with Teresa. Matt Paradise is in his house.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Super, super happy. So, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, I know I just read that bio, but tell us really what it is that you do, and then the why behind why you do what you do.
I empower, inspire, and educate people. I'm passionate about inspiring and helping people, as was mentioned in the bio. Thank you. Now I've got to try to, for the next 30 minutes, live up to it. But ultimately help people increase their well-being, reduce stress, and build whole health wealth. I'm a speaker, consultant, and help organizations to create more engaged, productive, cultures of financially capable people.
Man, and we need it. I mean, it's so interesting that we can talk about so many things in the world, right? We talk about stuff that we shouldn't be talking about, but we proudly and easily talk about all sorts of personal things and um, political things and just stuff that maybe we need to tone it down some. But finances is just one of those things that is not so much a common easy conversation for people. Why do you think that is?
It's true. People get funny with money. I mean, it's like a taboo. We both love and hate to talk about it in so many different ways.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, in schools across the country, if you talk to any teacher, they're thinking about money. They're talking about money with their friends, how to get it, what to spend it
right,
on.
right,
But at the same time, to sit down and learn like the fundamentals or sit down with the family, it gets a little awkward. So
right.
money is personal. Money is emotional. I mean, we can talk about math and sit down and for the most part agree 1 + 1 = 2. But I mean,
Right.
even there's arguments. But in general, we can agree 1 + 1 = 2.
Yes.
But when you
Yes.
ask 50 different people what to do with $2, we're going to get at least like 100 different opinions. And
Mm,
it's not always just a right or wrong, but it can be difficult to talk about money because it can be trauma, shame, lack of knowledge, embarrassment.
mm,
We all make different mistakes. I know I've made plenty. I don't always want to lead the in conversation. Yo, look how I messed up. But I messed up plenty of different ways.
yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then there's cultural norms as well. I remember many years ago teaching a class with Eastern European grandmother. And we were talking about like in the United States, it's accepted the whole idea of having a lemonade stand, helping encourage kids towards entrepreneurship, being
Yeah.
able to manage that money, being able to get that money, and all the different lessons from having a lemonade stand is popular
Mhm.
within the culture in the United States.
Right.
In Eastern Europe, not so much. Kids' job is to learn and not talk about money. It's the adult's job to do that. So
Mm,
trying to teach and talk to kids about money in their cultures, forget about it. It's not done. So
yeah.
that's just one specific little example, but there's a lot of different cultural backgrounds that
Right.
make it not just one conversation about money. There are many. So too often I've seen this is the way, like follow XYZ path and you'll be rich and follow this line. And as long as you do it to the T, then you'll be good.
Right.
Life on
Right.
easy street. And really, money is personal for so many reasons.
Right. Right. And you mentioned uh sometimes it can be trauma, sometimes it can be embarrassment, right? And those things are so real. Talk a little bit about the trauma, right? Like just real trauma with money. What are some of the things that you've seen with that?
Yeah, it can come up in a lot of different ways. I know in my own family, my personal history,
Hmm.
my parents came from very, very different backgrounds.
Okay.
And without getting into too much of the family details and
Yeah.
secrets, my mom's family had some money. My grandfather, though he like grew up with dirt kind of floors in rural Maine, he went into the military, got a decent job, all of that. Um, they were fairly conservative in a lot of ways, not fairly, very conservative in a lot of
Okay.
ways when I
Hmm.
was a little kid. My father grew up um, in poverty, completely different than my mom's experience.
Wow.
He was blue collar, he was an iron worker and provided for the family, sacrificed.
Okay.
But it was like a whole different class. He was somebody um, who also came from a mixed background. His dad was sub-Saharan African in descent through Jamaica, came to the U.S. His mom was of French descent and different kind of social vibes. And at first, my grandparents really
Mm,
did not accept him. I grew up
wow.
listening to like, wow, he's no good, not good enough for my mom, all of this kind of stuff. And,
Wow.
that's kind of a hostile environment.
Yeah.
Um, it's traumatic for so many, 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 many kids who grew up
You're right.
food insecure, not sure where the next meal's going to come from,
Right.
wondering if, the lights will be on. And I know for myself, as you mentioned a little bit in my bio, I moved out of my family's house when I was about 15 years old. I bounced
Mm,
around, I slept on the street, bounced from couch to couch, all of that. Didn't always know, what was up, what was down, crazy kind of world that I lived in. At the
mm-hmm.
same time, drugs are a big part of my background. I sold drugs and I participated even in ruining families. And that ate me up
Mm,
inside. I knew it was wrong and did it anyway, because like I was stuck in that cycle of addiction,
right.
feeding my addiction and the dysfunction that I had in my own life. But I
Wow.
saw just kids in horrible situations with
Right.
no power,
Right.
no like just unfit generally for like human kind of living,
Right.
neglected and just heart-wrenching situations.
Mm-hmm. No.
That's not just like grow up, go through that, and then okay, somebody says spend less than you earn, you'll be good. It's a whole lot deeper than that. We're talking
Yeah.
about self-confidence. We're talking about
Right.
a variety of different things that are deep, 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 that are
Exactly.
traumatic and
Yeah.
need to be worked with. And there are financial therapists, there are professionals that really
Mm-hmm.
can help work through some of that trauma, that
Right.
unfortunately so many endure. Uh, and it's real.
Right. No, no, no. You're absolutely right. And even as you were saying those things, they're so close to home, and depending on who it is that's listening, it's not just close to home, it's in home. Right. But if it's not in home, it's a friend, it's a neighbor, it's somewhere, it's something so tangible, that it can be, it just hurts, a bit. So I can definitely see that. And then, um, just I mentioned about the embarrassment, right? We almost want to think that everyone else has got it together, you know, uh, when it's not. The
Yeah.
reality is that we struggle, and not everybody, but a lot of people, we struggle because we don't talk about it a lot. Now I tell you what, you ask the majority of young people, how do you take a selfie? Not a problem.
Yeah.
It's all, like, they
They're
know how to
good.
take a selfie, they know how to pose, and like all this, right?
If
And
I
they
need
got
to use
all
my
that.
phone, I ask a teen.
That's right. And like how to use an iPhone and things like
Mhm.
that, because we're talking about it, but because we're not talking about the ups and downs, the curves, or investment, or saving, or making more than you spend, like just those things, we're not having those conversations, then there is some shame when we mess up somehow, as if we were supposed to have figured it all out, and
And I think social media and traditional media reinforce that idea of everybody's got it going on. Everybody's got it all
right.
together. Everybody's straight. And that's just not true. That's just not reality. The data shows differently. But
Yeah.
when I look at social media, whether it's friends or other, it's easy to look at the good stuff that's going on.
Right.
If it's a family portrait, it's not showing the like minute or two before or after that photo. It's like that one little millisecond that was everybody was smiling, looking at the camera long
That's
enough.
it.
But
That's
all the
it.
chaos of all our lives, we all have chaos.
Right.
It's part of life.
Right.
And in our families and our extended families, that's part of life. Uh,
It
but
is.
it's hard when social media, and again, even traditional media as well, shows that, wow, all these people are happy and doing good. And I got to do XYZ to be happy. And I think that's
Right.
a big part of money that's a misconception, and wealth and what building wealth is. Because a traditional kind of mindset is me, get mine, forget everybody else. And as long
Right.
as my bank account's growing as big as possible and I have the biggest pile to sit on and I got stacks on stacks, then I'm good. But in
Not all.
reality, that's just not it. That's not wellness. That's not in my book, I subtitled A Friendly Guide to Building Whole Health Wealth. And whole health
Mm,
wealth is really the idea that all of the tenets of well-being, the psychological, the emotional, the physical, the social, the
right,
environmental, as well as the financial, all work together. They're inseparable. And
right, right.
mentioned even in my bio, I mean, going through cancer upended our life for me and my wife and everybody in our house, my in-laws, my son, and we didn't have the dog yet, so he doesn't even know. So he's lucky. Uh, but it changed.
Oh, let's
It
see.
changed everything
Yeah,
because we had a plan. We sat down, wrote it. It's in Excel, all of that. But when somebody's 40 years old, they don't sit and think that they're going to be on death's door.
okay.
And ultimately, life happens to all of us. It's not really a matter of if, but when. And all
Right,
of those things really play together to build whole health wealth. It's not just about the money. I've
right,
seen
right.
extremely miserable people with 8, 9-figure bank accounts. I've seen
Right.
extremely fulfilled, grateful, joyful people who barely have 2 nickels to rub together, may not
Mhm.
necessarily know where their food's coming from for next week, but
Right,
alive today and food in their belly today, but family and love and things that really matter in the truest sense,
right,
they're rich.
right. Exactly, exactly. Whew, you are absolutely right. And like I said, we all know we've seen it again on social media. Like sometimes I start to think, you know, these little 19-year-old, 22-year-olds, they're living large. And in some ways they are, right? I'm going off on a little tangent, but I think
Right?
about how as far as money or being secure, there are these 22, 24 year olds who are making way more than me, whether it's whatever it is that they're doing, but their salaries, they're coming, some of them are coming out of college, you know making 200 bills, right? And it's just like, wait, what? Like all the apartments, if you look around Boston, they're all luxury apartments. It's like the rent alone, forget a mortgage, but a rent is, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I'm thinking, I ain't got it like that. Right? I'm glad that I bought when we bought, because if that's your rent, then how, and you got a Tesla and you got a dog? Like it's crazy. And like you said, then we try to like live up to that, right? And then we're like, why aren't we doing that? And I mean, obviously, we don't know about all their lives, but there's so much that's in front of us, and then we start to feel like, "Oh, maybe we're not doing the right thing. Maybe, there's so many different things that can go along with that, but money can
True. And it's
have
also
us.
not always even a reality, like what we see.
True.
And I mean, we live in the greater Boston area. It's one of the wealthiest areas across the country.
Hmm.
Obviously, not the only one. There's a lot of wealth, a lot of wealthy
Right.
people. At the same time, there's a lot of people who look wealthy, they look
You're
rich,
right. You're
but
right.
really are struggling to survive. There's actually a paper, research paper that was written about, it's called The Wealthy Hand to Mouth, and really talks about people earning over 6 figures who struggle just to put food on the table and
Mm,
spend and live check to check. Because that Tesla, like you mentioned, or that rent or mortgage or those fancy clothes or whatever that it
right.
is really just subsidized by debt, credit card debt or otherwise.
Oh
And
gosh,
I've
you are
seen it
right.
just so many times, time and time again.
Yeah.
I remember one individual that I was counseling. They lived in subsidized housing, which meant that their income wasn't really high. The majority of their income was going towards their $1,200 payment for their car. They happen to have a Hummer, was the car that they chose. But it was $1,200. It was more than they pay for rent.
Wow.
It was more than they pay for anything else for that
Right.
one vehicle. So somebody might see them driving down the road thinking, wow, they got it made. I don't know what they had to do, but ooh, they must be getting that money.
Right.
And in reality, they were not. And there's so
Mm-mm.
many that, whether it's in Boston or cities or areas across the country, so many look like they have it going on, but really
Right.
don't. And
Mm,
never mind, all those emotions that we talked about, the shame, the trauma, the all of
right.
that really goes deep. It's, yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In your book, um, your award-winning book, I might have to add, has a lot of really interesting titles in it. The chapters. Um, if you had to pick, I don't know, if you had to pick two or three of the chapter titles that you would want everyone to hear about, to know about? I mean, it's kind of hard, right? It's kind of like picking a favorite kid, right? You wrote them all for a good reason. So I'm not asking you to pick a favorite kid,
Yeah, all
just
beautiful.
they're all beautiful, right? But if there were, because after this, and maybe part of this, I want to ask you some really helpful tips. What is it that we can do to get to a healthier, wealth being, place of being? But what are some of your favorite chapters in your book?
Yeah, so there's a lot. Thank you for asking.
Hmm.
I know you mentioned award winning. This
Yes.
actually
Yes.
just came in the mail. So I'm going to open it up right here on the
Okay.
show live uh,
Oh.
and check it out. I haven't even seen it yet. But recently, the Nonfiction Authors Association, ooh, this is nice, um, gave me this award for the book. And the book definitely is not something that I can take credit alone for. So
Wow.
when you ask for different sections of the book, um,
Oh, wait a
there's
minute. First of all, tell us the name of the book.
okay, the name of the book. So it's Financially Capable, a friendly
Yes.
guide to building whole health wealth.
Thank you for
Um,
sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, and I appreciate
Hmm.
your interest.
Yes.
And I mean, my goal is just to help some people with it. So
Yes.
I hope so. So the awards, all of that helps just kind of make it legitimate so that somebody will actually read it, open it. My hope, my goal, my vision is that it actually helps people, empowers people, and transforms lives.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so ultimately the book is split into three different sections. So to be
Hmm.
financially capable, there's three things that we all need. One is access to safe and affordable products and services. So
Hmm.
part one of the book, financial environment, understanding access and opportunity in a turbulent world. The
Hmm.
second section is more than just touchy feely, gets into some of what we were talking about, the trauma, the shame, all of
Right.
those feelings
Yes.
that really
Yes.
are deep and affect all of us. So
Hmm.
the second part is called More Than Touchy Feely, the psychology, attitudes, behaviors, and emotions of money. And
Wow.
then the third section is just nuts and bolts. So the fundamental knowledge of financial literacy.
Yeah.
But the part that is most important to me, and I know not everybody will read it, but it's most important for a few reasons.
Everybody's gonna read it. What you talking about?
Well,
Everybody's gonna read
the
it.
acknowledgement section. So in the acknowledgements, it says relationships influence and forge our personal and professional lives. Isaac Newton said, if I have seen further, it's by standing upon the shoulders of giants. And me, I'm incredibly grateful for the many people who have let me stand on their shoulders and help to forge the person I am today. First and
Hmm.
foremost, thank you to God, I am sustained by grace. And it lists out so many different people, from different mentors that I've had, different people who have influence,
Hmm.
clients that I've had the privilege and opportunity to learn from. So this book isn't just from information in my head or only my experiences alone. It
Right.
really is collective knowledge and wisdom of over 100,000 people that I've had the privilege and opportunity to
That's
speak to and
awesome.
learn from.
Yeah.
So it really is a collective work.
Oh, that's awesome. And so important to recognize, that if it weren't for those 100,000 people, their contributions, whether it was questions or their struggles, that they were open enough to share with you and that you could advise, then, that book may not have come to its full potential. So yeah,
It's true.
I love the
Yeah.
fact that you recognize that. So.
And I think there's a lot of ways. I mean, one misconception that a lot of voices I've heard say about people who are in shelter, whether it's domestic violence shelters, whether it's homeless shelters, emergency shelters, family
Mhm.
shelter. I've had the privilege of learning from all of those guests. And there's can be like that whole not in my backyard and those people over there. And I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot of people in shelter who are college educated, extremely bright
Right,
people,
right,
who fell on hard times for one reason or another.
right.
And not always because of choices that they did or didn't make. Sometimes it was what happened to them. Um, Certainly in the case of domestic violence shelters, for sure.
Right.
But when we talk about something like budgeting, that dirty B word is what I called it in the
Yeah,
book.
you're right. I
Nobody
remember
wants to sit down. It's that taboo. Like, who wants to sit down and talk about budgeting? Like, how much money I don't have, the bills I
Ah,
gotta pay, how much fun I can't have. Nobody
that's
wants to talk
right.
about that.
Yep.
But having a list of priorities is important for us all. And when we write them down on paper, it can help. I've
Right.
learned that there's like a crazy amount, unlimited ways of different possibilities with a can of beans or a little bit of
Mm,
rice. And that's one of my favorite lessons that I've learned, even working with guests in shelters, that even if I have very, very little, there can always be enough. And I think that's an
mm,
important lesson, that some of those individuals are phenomenal at
yeah.
budgeting. They know where every single penny goes.
That's true. That's
If there's not
true.
enough pennies after a while, there's only so much cutting you can do. There's only
Oh,
so much
yeah.
reduction that you can do. But they're like
Right.
genius, so many like geniuses with trying to figure out how to get a bargain, how to get a deal, how to put clothes on their kids. And I think
Yeah.
that it's lessons that we all can learn.
Right. And I feel like nowadays there's so many opportunities, like you said, to make that happen. That budget, whether it's Excel, whether it's on a piece of paper, or whatever. And I think that I know for me, if I only had $1 and I needed to do a bunch of different things, then yeah, I'm actually gonna know literally where every penny is gonna go.
It's true.
But then if there's a lot more than $1, it may not be. Yeah, it's just $1.
It's
It's
true.
just here, and that little bit can really, you know, and one person go to a place where they're in such need because they didn't pay attention to each one of those dollars.
It's true. When
So
we
it
have
is.
more than we need, it's easy to take for granted what we have.
It
But then
is.
there's
It
other
is.
people that are out here just trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Out of 15 cents. I was going to say that. And I was like, yes, you got it. You got it. All right. I know we're close to time, but there was
Mhm.
another chapter in your book. And you said, why don't they teach, I think you were saying why they don't teach finance in school. It was something to that. What was that title of that? Or the real reason why they don't teach finance in school? Something like that.
I have to look up the title because
I know I just threw you off.
my memory's like a sieve.
But there was something, and I was like, I meant to ask him about that. It
Yeah. So
wasn't
the title of the chapter 9, is "Why Isn't Financial Education Taught in Schools?"
right.
Is the title of the chapter, and I mean, ultimately, it is in schools across the country. It is. I worked with a phenomenal group of people. A lot of people before me started working on having financial education in schools in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And eventually, a group that I was part of was able to get financial literacy standards in K-12 signed by Charlie Baker when he was here. Um,
Nice.
but standards are kind of funny because it's not on the MCAS, not on standardized tests.
True.
And as
True.
a result, it's a huge disparity about what's actually taught in from one school to the next. And even in
Mm-hmm.
the same district, in Massachusetts in particular, where we live, uh, every single school has its own autonomy in selecting what the kids are actually taught. So there
Yeah.
are some great organizations out there. Next Gen Personal Finance is a phenomenal one. Tim Renzetto was the co-founder of that organization, and
Mm.
he was gracious enough to give an endorsement for my book as well. But he works across the country, advocating for financial education in schools and also
Mm-hmm.
providing training for teachers across the
Mm-hmm.
country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting one because it's education in the United States, not just financial education, but education in the United States,
Yeah.
is wrought with politics, with
Mm,
disparity,
you're
with
right.
whether it's socioeconomic or along racial lines.
Hmm.
The the data is just so unequal. It's crazy.
Right. Right.
It's crazy. So the
Ah,
financial education, similar to education in a broad sense, needs reformation. We need some change. We
right.
can do better for the amount of money
Hmm.
that the United States spends on
Right.
education overall, but
Right.
financial education as well.
Hmm.
We can do better. We can have better outcomes. Other countries spend less and have better outcomes. We can too.
You're absolutely right. All right. I'm gonna bring this to a close. If you had just two or three tips that you could leave with us, that you're just like, to get us on that paradise road, to no financial paradise, road to financial paradise, what would they be? And then if you could also then let us know how, if someone had a question about, a budget or about your book or about how to reach out to you for financial advice, I'd love for you to let us know that. But maybe a few tips and then tell us how we can reach you.
Sure. Thank you. I think the first tip that comes to mind is to keep it personal. And one of the sections in the book, the epilogue, I used personal even as an acronym, but to keep personal finance personal. What works for
Hmm.
me may not necessarily work for you, may not work for the
Mm,
people down the street, and that's okay.
I
We
love
have
that.
different goals, different dreams, different aspirations, different backgrounds, different circumstances.
Great
And just
point.
because my circumstances are the way that they are and my plan is the way that it is, if someone else with different circumstances tries to have the same plan as me, they're going to end up frustrated because
Mm,
it's not the same, and that's okay. It's personal.
that's a great point.
It's personal.
I love that.
So that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Right.
But we each figure out what is best for us and our family, and we learn. And
Hmm.
when we know better, we can do better.
Right.
So that's the second part, to keep it personal, but also be educated. I know for myself, when I talk about well-being in the broad sense,
Hmm.
it's a lifelong pursuit. It's not like I've read enough books, I know enough information, now I'm good. It's an ongoing, lifelong pursuit. And I
Hmm.
continue to change and I hope evolve and learn to love,
Right.
learn to live in all different ways. And my life now is much different than it was 20 years ago. And God willing, if I'm
Mm,
alive in 20 years from now, it's going to look dramatically different as well, with different
yeah.
goals, different dreams, different aspirations, different accomplishments, different
Right.
ways that I can serve my community and my family. And it's a lifelong pursuit.
Okay.
So I would say that that's important as well. And then lastly,
Right.
there's a lot of information, a lot of resources that are free on my website, just www.mattparadise.com.
All right.
You can go there, can download them, can check it out. The first couple of chapters are free of my book, Financially Capable. It's there, can download.
Mm-hmm.
But there's over 100 other different resources that anybody can access and check out, but also contact me through. You can send a message there, my social media there as well. So still trying to learn TikTok and continue to grow and evolve, and how I might communicate is
Nice.
different. But my LinkedIn is there on my website as well. Can connect,
Excellent.
hit me up through that as well.
Excellent. Matt, thank you so much. Like I started off saying how excited I was to have you on the show. I am even more excited because the things that you shared, real stuff. It was real talk. You're walking the walk. You've walked a few different paths that if we just looked at you, we would not have ever guessed. Liver transplant, drug addiction, homelessness, the trauma that you've experienced with finance allows you just to be able to, share with the rest of us, that we can be financially capable. And that is one of those things that there are definitely times where I didn't feel like it's just, I'm just not good at budgeting. I'm just not good with money. You just kind of throw your hands up, but to know that we can be is such an empowerment. And I definitely appreciate you sharing you, sharing your book, sharing your words, sharing your award. I love that opening. I was like, okay, that's a first on the show. I was like, okay, I see that. But thank you so much. Please thank your family for lending you to us. Appreciate Elsa and Jaden. Thank you guys so much for everything. And Matt, I look forward to just to continue to learn more and continue to follow you through all your stages. So appreciate you
Thank you.
being here.
I appreciate it. It truly is my honor. I appreciate all that you're doing, Teresa. The good that you're doing in the world, the building up confidence and communication, the work life harmony, being the change that you want to see. I appreciate all of that. I appreciate you. I appreciate Carl in the ways that you are phenomenal examples. So much love, much respect. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's another episode of Conversations with Teresa. Thank you guys so much for joining. And you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving week. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to say, I'm so thankful for you guys. Have an amazing Turkey Day, safe travels, and all that great stuff. We look forward to seeing you back here on Monday. Have an amazing week. Bye-bye.